Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
And greetings to you, music lovers, thrill seekers, conversationalists all across the fruited plain. Time for the Rush Limbaugh program. 3 hours of the day, the only time during the day where life makes sense.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Yes, Jerry Bob, 800-282-2882. If you want to be on the program, the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. That is a new email address. lrushbo@eibnet.us. Okay, so according to a writer at the Huffing and Puffington Post, the guy who used to run Al Gore's TV network. Al Gore's TV, anybody remember the name of Al Gore's TV network? Current TV, it then became Al Jazeera TV. Al Jazeera bought Al Gore's network. And, of course, everybody says it's kind of crazy because Al Gore and global warming and climate change and anti-fossil fuels, and who did he sell out to? Al Jazeera is Qatar, which is an oil state. Anyway, a guy that used to run Al Gore's TV network, Current TV, named Michael Rosenblum on Twitter, has a piece at the Huffing and Puffington Post. Donald Trump is going to be elected. The election is over. Nobody knows it yet because nobody knows how to look at this. His thesis is Donald Trump's going to be elected. The American people voted for him a long time ago. They voted for him when reality TV swept the nation. When the History Channel went from showing documentaries about World War II to Pawn Stars and Swamp People. They voted for Trump when the Discovery Channel went from showing lost treasures of the Yangtze Valley to Naked and Afraid. They voted for Trump when the Learning Channel moved from something you could learn from to My 600-Pound Life. They voted for him when CBS went from airing Harvest of Shame to airing Big Brother and King of Queens. These networks didn't make these programming changes by accident. They're responding to what the American people actually wanted. And what they wanted was Naked and Afraid and Duck Dynasty. And all of these Real Housewives of every damn city in the country. The polls may show that Donald Trump is losing to Hillary Clinton, but don't believe the polls. When the AC Nielsen Company selects a new Nielsen family, and I did not know this, by the way, and there are only about 1,200 Nielsen families nationwide. Did you know that? TV ratings are based on 1,200 households? At any rate, well, they've had to make some modifications to try to rate, they go to DirecTV and TiVo, and they try to get ratings from people who delayed watch and so forth. But the Nielsen TV ratings are basically 1,200 families. And when they sign up a new family, they ignore what that family watches for the first 3 months. The reason they do is because the family tunes into PBS and all kinds of stuff they think is highbrow to impress the Nielsen people. It's kind of like a reverse Wilder effect or a reverse Bradley effect. In other words, you tell the pollster you're voting the black guy when you have no intention of voting for the black guy, just so the pollster doesn't think you're racist. Well, apparently this happens with TV ratings. You get the Nielsen box, and by the way, the box connects and it records what you watch. There's no way to fake it. So you have to watch what you want reported to Nielsen. And they ignore a new family for the first 3 months because they're watching junk. They're watching PBS. They're watching all this highbrow stuff, opera, you name it. And so they ignore it for the first 3 months because after the first 3 months, The Nielsen families then settle in and begin to watch what they actually watch, because people lie what they're watching in the first 3 months. After 3 months of watching PBS and live from the Kennedy Center, they go back to the Kardashians. Same goes for people who are being asked by pollsters for whom they are voting. They'll not say Trump. It's too embarrassing, but the truth is they like Trump. Trump is just like their favorite TV show. Trump is their favorite TV show. The campaign is their favorite TV show. And things like what happened yesterday just make it even better. Here's Hillary out saying that Trump is a racist. And Trump responds, no, you're a bigot. It's a food fight. The presidential campaign has become reality TV to the low information voters. In fact, one of the most controversial aspects of the presidential campaign has become, did Hillary Clinton rig opening a can of pickles on the Jimmy Kimmel Show earlier this week? A major controversy has erupted. Kimmel had her on. She was going to prove that she's strong enough to be president. So he brings out a jar of pickles and sees if she can open it. And she goes through this massive gyration like she's just using every bit of strength she can. She rotates her whole body, and finally she cracks the lid. And the audience applauds. And conspiracy theorists are claiming the whole thing was rigged. That the lid had already been loosened. You think it was rigged? Are you telling me, I've got two people here on the other side, you think the Hillary Jimmy Kimmel bit was rigged? There you go. Even my staff, ladies and gentlemen, has now gone fully immersed into the notion that the campaign is a reality show. And it's entertaining. And you watch it to see what kind of outrageous thing is going to happen next. You don't judge anybody in the middle of it. It's because you don't want it to end. You just watch it and you absorb it. We are, according to Mr. Rosenblum here at the Huffington Puffington Post, we're a TV-based culture. We have been for some time now. The average American spends 5 hours a day, every day, watching TV. After sleep, it is our number one activity. More shockingly, Americans spend 8.5 hours a day staring at screens when you add the phones and the tablets and the computers to the 5.5 hours they're spending watching television. And more of the content on the phone and the tablet and the computer is video and TV. If you spend 5 to 8 hours a day, every day for years and years doing the same thing, it has an impact on you. And for the past 40 years, we have devoted 5 to 8 hours a day staring at a screen every day. And we haven't been watching Judy Woodruff, which is his means of conveying we're not watching PBS. But we never did. Now, don't be fooled by something here. PBS never has been a ratings winner. Now, don't be fooled. The idea that we used to all sit around and watch the news hour with Jim Lara, that's a bunch of hooey. Same thing with NPR. In the 1950s, early television was allowed, with many restrictions, to be an observational guest at political conventions. They were quiet flies on the wall, carefully, quietly commenting on what they saw way down below. They didn't get involved in the process. Today, TV is the process at conventions and everywhere else. Today, political conventions are nothing but carefully directed TV shows. Likewise, the debates. They exist only to entertain a TV audience. TV and entertainment now dictate everything political. It is a never-ending show, the biggest reality show on air. And Hillary Clinton sucks at it, and Donald Trump is great at it. Donald Trump knows how to entertain. Hillary Clinton, I'm reading verbatim from the Huffington Puffington Post, Hillary Clinton is crap TV. She may be smarter. She may be better prepared. She may be a better politician. It won't matter. She is terrible entertainment. That's just how it is. It's depressing, but true. Trump is Kim Kardashian. Hillary is Judy Woodruff. Who would you rather watch the next 4 years? In 1825, the great French gastronome Brillat de Savarin said, "Tell me what you eat, and I'll tell you what you are." Today in America, we can safely say, "Tell me what you watch, and I will tell you what you are." And the guy's serious, by the way. I mean, and there may be some tongue-in-cheek in this, but there are a lot of people who they're being made very uncomfortable by this campaign. And I could, if I wanted to, I'd give you the reasons why. Take a look at what happened yesterday. Hillary goes out. She's in Reno. Trump has his rally at 1 o'clock. Hillary does her appearance in Reno at 3 o'clock. And it is classic. It's once again a Democrat candidate unloading on a Republican as a racist. She didn't just play the race card. She played the whole deck, folks. Now, the people who are watching politics seriously, it was devastating, and it spelled the end of Trump. That's it. And depending on where you go in the drive-by media and in left-wing blogs and websites, they're celebrating. They think Hillary hammered the last nail in Trump's coffin yesterday, and it is over. But it isn't. In the past, it would have been. That was devastating what she did yesterday. The allegations, the accusations, it was devastating. But something else happened. Trump fired back with every bit the salvo that Hillary launched. And so the soap opera script continues to be written, and the reality show goes on. Still being debated today is, has Trump flip-flopped on deportation, amnesty, immigration? It remains a major controversy because every time Trump opens his mouth about it, something changes from the previous thing that he said. Last night he was on with Anderson Cooper. No, nothing's changed. They got to go. We're going to find the gang leaders. We're going to find the thugs. We're going to find the criminal. We know where they are. We're going to get them, and they got to go. And he kept saying, "But how are you going to find all the left? Look, they got to go. They got to go. Can they come back and be citizens? Yep. But we're going to kick them out first. They got to go. Then they come back in." And then Trump said, "I don't even know how many there are. 11 million, 5 million. We don't know. But we're going to find out." Many in the drive-bys and elsewhere are saying this constitutes a major Trump flip-flop, that Trump is beginning to moderate his tone, and now people are looking for people to blame on this. Ann Coulter says that this is Roger Ailes' fault. She's on ABC last night. I'm sitting here minding my own business. I'm trying to take a break from this stuff. And I get an email. I'll tell you, Greta Van Susteren sent me an email. Said, "Did you see this?" And I looked at what she'd said. Ann Coulter, ABC News, blaming Roger Ailes for Trump moderating his tone on immigration. Then I find out it isn't Ailes. Rudy Giuliani says it's Chris Christie that is responsible for Trump moderating his tone. If you talk to Trump, he's not changing anything. Nothing's changed. You still got to leave before you can come back in. Still going to build a wall. And then Trump fires back at Hillary and her salvo on racism. By the way, on that, I'll tell you what I think her purpose is and why she may have miscalculated on this. This is the one thing the Democrats, they always seem to either, if they know it, they're really willing to run the risk. It wasn't just what she said about Trump. You have to realize Trump has a slew of devoted supporters. And everything Hillary said about Trump can be said about his supporters. I mean, you can't separate the two. If Trump is all these horrible, racist, bigoted, just yucky things, so are the people supporting him. And those people are going to rally to Trump's defense because they're not going to like being attacked by Hillary Clinton, who they think is the most corrupt Democrat candidate they could have nominated as their candidate for president this year. And Trump is firing back, and it's big. It's interesting. But I think what she was actually doing is even more sinister. Now, granted, Hillary Clinton wanted to take Trump out, and she wants people to think that Trump is a low-brow reprobate. the lowest of the low. He's basically human debris walking around out there, doesn't know what he's doing, he's unqualified, he's unsuited, he's not smart enough, he's dangerously placing the country at risk, all this stuff, plus he's a racist. What that actually was an appeal to moderate Republicans to abandon Trump. It was an appeal to the never-Trumpers. And the message was, I'm giving you a route to abandon this guy. I'm characterizing this guy, Trump, as the biggest shred of human debris we've ever seen. And I know you don't want to be associated with this. I know you don't want to think that Trump represents your party. And you don't have to now. I am giving you a way out. All you have to do is agree with me, which should be easy, and we can join together and defeat Trump. That's the unspoken attempt that Hillary was making yesterday. In a way, it's kind of like the debate that happened between Al Gore and Jack Kemp in 1996. Al Gore was the vice president. He and Clinton running for re-election, and Bob Dole was a Republican nominee. He had chosen Jack Kemp as his vice presidential running mate. So they had a debate. And in the middle of the debate, Al Gore praised Jack Kemp for not being a racist pig like the rest of his party. Gore goes on this rant describing all the racism and the bigotry that you find in the Republican Party, and then said, but Jack is not one of those people. Jack, I understand you're not part of that group, and I want to. And Jack Kemp said, thank you, Mr. Vice President, rather than defending the party. Well, Hillary, a modified version of that same, oops, I just saw the clock, folks. I have to. Open line Friday, 800-282-2882, whatever you want to talk about, folks. Quickly, C-SPAN, Washington Journal today, viewer call in, listen to this, a guy named Victor from Silver Spring, Maryland.
Hillary is personal for me. I'm 69 years old. I'm legally blind. My sighted wife, who was an extreme liberal, as soon as the Clintons got into office, she gave me an ultimatum, either the marriage or Rush Limbaugh. I picked Rush Limbaugh. She dumped me. Rush has said on his show many times that Hillary will remind every man who's been through a divorce, with the way she screams and yells, she does remind me of my former wife, who I cannot stand.
That's Victor from Silver Spring, Maryland, on C-SPAN's Washington Journal today. You heard them chuckling there. Whoever the guests were on their roundtable, they were chuckling. So he chose this program over. His wife gives him an ultimatum when Clinton's got into office, and he chose me. He chose this program. When we come back from the break here at the bottom of the hour, a few sound bites from Hillary's speech yesterday in Reno, Nevada. She began the speech. This is typical Clinton. But I don't know about you. I'm sick of it. I'm tired of the plan, the schedule, the make book on it. Republicans are racists card being thrown by the Democrats in every campaign. She starts out by saying, everywhere I go, people tell me how concerned they are by the divisive rhetoric coming from my opponent in this election. And it's a typical setup. People aren't complaining to her about that. The divisive rhetoric in this country started 8 years ago, or maybe even before that, and it comes from Hillary's party. And welcome back. El Rushbo, servant of humanity and all living matter. Here at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies, I checked the email during the break. There's a couple interesting things here. First, on the pickle business, on the pickle jar. It was funny and all that, but let me be serious about this. The whole thing is a giant distraction. The whole bit, Hillary Clinton opening a jar of pickles on a Jimmy Kimmel show, is a giant distraction. Hillary Clinton has a thyroid problem. That's what we know. She has either an overactive or underactive thyroid, and she's taking some sort of medicine or combination of medicines for it. Has nothing to do with her physical strength. She's got the thyroid presents other problems. That's why she needs to take time off and rest and recoup and this kind of thing. And it becomes a question of, can it be controlled with medication? She goes on Kimmel and they try to distract everybody with showing, oh yeah, plenty strong. I got all the strength in the world. I can open that jar of pickles. And so she makes a big production out of opening a jar of pickles, and people react to it. The whole thing was a distraction. It was a misdirection, if you will. It was designed to steer everybody away from what really plagues her health-wise. And it's typical Clinton behavior mode. It's a typical trick. Now they've got everybody talking about, well, sorry, not everybody talking about it, but those who are talking about an aspect of it that's irrelevant. But it's fun. It's harmless. The second thing is, Rush, should I upgrade to the new Apple software release? Yes, you should. Let me explain what happened here. If you have an iPhone or an iPad, you need to, as soon as you can, go to software update in your settings and upgrade to 9.3.5. What happened was this. There's an Israeli company that created an amazing piece of malware, and they offered it for sale, $1 million minimum. The people who bought it were governments, primarily in the Middle East. What this did, it was I guess the way to describe it would be a very sophisticated form of phishing, phishing. The way it was discovered, there's a dissident / journalist in the United Arab Emirates, and he got a text message from somebody he didn't know. There was an internet link in the text message about a subject that he's very interested in, and that is torture in jails in Middle Eastern companies. He did not click on the link wisely because he didn't recognize who had sent it to him. If he had clicked on that link, one link, his phone would have been jailbroken. And the people behind it would have had access to everything on his phone. They would have been able to monitor him using the phone. They would have been able to listen via his microphone, watch via his camera. It was one of the most amazing exploits. That was actually 3, what they call them, 0 day. There were 3 different exploits here combined in this one hack. Now, the odds that this is going to happen to you are slim, but phishing is one of the most common tricks used to get people to, in a way in which they're totally unaware, expose the contents of their devices. You get an email from somebody. It's a fake email, like it's from your credit card company or your bank, and it looks real, and they tell you there's a problem in your account. Please click on this link, it says, and re-enter your ID information. And a lot of people fall for it. Well, in this case, you would have totally burned your phone. You would have jailbroken the phone, which meant no security. Anybody behind this link could have gotten into your phone and found out everything on it, all of your passwords, every password that you've got, every person in your contact sheet, your address book. So, yeah, upgrade to 9.3.5. One of the emails said, how come Apple hasn't made a big deal of it? Well, they have, in a way. They have in the tech community, they have, and they're relying on the tech community to get the word out. But at the same time, you don't like to admit that such vulnerabilities are possible. So it's been low-keyed a little bit, but that's why I'm telling you to do it. It's harmless. In fact, you should. There's nothing else is going to happen. That patch is just going to be placed on your phone, and the security is going to be reestablished. That's the only reason to do it. It doesn't change. There's no new features. There's nothing that's going to make the phone run better or worse. It just patches this giant security hole that was discovered just in the past 10 days. So that's what it's all about. Now we go to the audio sound bites, and we're going to start with the promised few excerpts from Mrs. Clinton's speech yesterday in Reno. in which she just accused Trump of every vile, despicable, racist, and conspiratorial thing she could think of. We have a total of 4 bites. Just to give you an example, here's the first.
From the start, Donald Trump has built his campaign on prejudice and paranoia. He is taking hate groups mainstream and helping a radical fringe take over the Republican Party. Trump is reinforcing harmful stereotypes and offering a dog whistle to his most hateful supporters. It's a disturbing preview of what kind of president he'd be.
All right, she's alluding here to this new thing called the alt-right, which most people can't define. Most people don't know what it is. What Hillary is doing is trying to set up the alt-right as the new mainstream conservatism, and it's, of course, despicable, and it's vile, and it's disgusting, and it's what Trump is, and Trump is promoting it. And you heard her say here, he's taking hate groups mainstream and helping a radical fringe, that's the alt-right bunch, take over the Republican Party. So that's her signal to people like Ryan and McConnell and anybody else in the elected Republican domain. Hey, you can abandon this guy now. I've given you the highway. I've given you the way out. I have properly characterized this guy taking over your party. I can give you a way out so you won't be tainted by it. Make no mistake, that's what she's trying to do. What she's not calculating by doing all this, she is insulting everybody who supports Trump. Now, maybe she thinks that she's got enough of a cushion where she can do that and it won't matter. But she's going to be president someday if she succeeds, and presidents have to be president of all the people. But we found out that's not the case anymore. The presidency has even become a partisan thing. The presidency has been totally politicized and totally made partisan, as evidenced by the IRS going after the Tea Party and any number of other examples I give you. Here's the next Hillary excerpt from her speech.
Now, all of this adds up to something we have never seen before. There's always been a paranoid fringe in our politics, but it's never had the nominee of a major party stoking it, encouraging it, and giving it a national megaphone until now. This is a moment of reckoning for every Republican dismayed that the party of Lincoln has become the party of Trump.
Once again, outreach to Republicans she thinks and hopes are outraged by Trump and have been for a while to abandon the Republican Party because it's gone. The Republican Party we've all known, it's gone, Hillary says. Trump's taken it over with his fringe bunch from the alt-right and Trump Bart News and all that. So you don't want to be part of it. Come join me. And there are some Republicans acknowledging that's what she's doing and thinking of making the move. Media-type Republicans. Here's the next excerpt.
20 years ago, when Bob Dole accepted the Republican nomination, he pointed to the exits in the convention hall and told any racists in the party to get out. The week after 9/11, George W. Bush went to a mosque and declared for everyone to hear that Muslims love America just as much as I do. In 2008, John McCain told his own supporters that they were wrong about the man he was trying to defeat. Senator McCain made sure they knew Barack Obama, he said, is an American citizen and a decent person. We need that kind of leadership again.
Oh, there she goes, almost screaming, almost going off into ex-wife land. Now, that's even further outreach. McCain, George W. Bush, she's saying kind things about George W. Bush. This is an invitation. But what Hillary conveniently left out, which we will remind you, because I'm sure you know it, maybe shouting at your radios even now, she is the one who started the birther movement on Barack Obama. She, in her campaign of 2008, and it was her husband who played the race card on Barack Hussein O. It was her husband who said to Ted Kennedy in a moment of frustration in South Carolina, "Hey, Ted, this guy, it's a fairy tale. This guy's he's dreaming. It wasn't that long ago, Ted, this guy'd be getting our scotch. Isn't that right, Ted?" Well, Obama heard about that, and there was friction from that day forward. But it was Hillary and her campaign which started this whole birther business. Trump didn't start it. Sit tight, folks. There's more, and then we go to your phone calls because it's Open Line Friday. Hang in there. Be right back. Still in Reno yesterday afternoon, Hillary Clinton claiming that it was Donald Trump who started the birther movement.
Trump first gained political prominence leading the charge for the so-called birthers. He promoted the racist lie that President Obama is not really an American citizen, part of a sustained effort to delegitimize America's first black president.
Well, except the problem with that is that Hillary Clinton started it. I don't know how many of you recall, but there was during the 2008 campaign, this is one example, there was a picture of Obama in Muslim garb. He had gone home to Kenya. He had gone to Kenya and, the ancestral home there, the brother that lives in the hut and so forth is there. And 6 by 9 foot hut. Yeah. No, the brother still lives in a 6 by 9 foot hut. Obama's brother lives in a 6 by 9 foot hut and lives on the equivalent of $2 a year. No. If Obama could find a way to give his brother $20, it would mean phenomenal difference. Lives in a hut. Doesn't even have a sign. Says home sweet hut. There's no such thing. It's anyway, he went there and he dressed in ceremonial garb. And it was the Hillary campaign that got that photo and sent it to Drudge, who put it on the front page of the Drudge Report. Now, let's go back to March 2nd, 2008, CBS 60 Minutes. Steve Kroft speaking with Senator Hillary Clinton.
Of course not. I mean, that's, that there is no basis for that.
Recue that. I forgot to ask the question. Kroft says, you don't believe that Obama's a Muslim. She was getting the question because her campaign had already raised the question. People forget this 2008 campaign because it was Democrats and it was, 8 years ago, but it contained innuendo at the wazoo, folks. And the Clinton campaign had been insinuating that Obama might be a Muslim, that he might not be a natural-born citizen. The birther stuff all came from the Hillary Clinton campaign. And Steve Kroft said, you don't believe he's a Muslim, do you?
Of course not. I mean, that's, that there is no basis for that. I take him on the basis of what he says. And, there isn't any reason to doubt that.
You said you take Senator Obama at his word that he's not a Muslim. You don't believe that he's a Muslim.
No, why would I? No, there is nothing to base that on, as far as I know.
Whoa! There's nothing to base on it so far as I know. That's not one of these categorical denials. That's not one of these. Don't be silly, Steve. I can't believe you're asking such an insulting question about a Democrat candidate. Of course he's not a Muslim. Who in the world could possibly say? But the problem was her campaign was. And even more, her campaign was playing race cards. Her campaign was doing all kinds of, her husband out there trying to demean Obama as nothing more than a waiter or butler. And then claiming that he was going to if he win the South Carolina, what was it Clinton said about winning in South Carolina? Oh, it's just going to be the same thing happened to Jesse Jackson. It's going to mean anything. You guys live in a fantasy world out there. And what he meant was, he's just going to win because he's black. That was Bill Clinton saying that. And he did make that comment to Ted Kennedy about, it wasn't that long ago, Ted, this guy'd be getting us our scotch. Or he might have said coffee. Now, there's a new Trump ad. We doubling back here to audio soundbite number 2. Last night, Trump's Twitter account, a new ad highlighting Hillary's campaign tactics against Obama during the 2008 primary.
When we arrived in South Carolina yesterday, this was the state newspaper. Clinton camp hits Obama, attacks painful for black voters. Many in state offended by criticism of Obama and remarks about Martin Luther King.
Dr. King's dream began to be realized when President Lyndon Johnson passed the Civil Rights Act of 1964.
It's as if you are minimizing I have a dream. It's a nice sentiment, but it took a white president to get blacks to the mountaintop.
The damage between the Clintons and the African Americans in this country might be irreparable.
Senator Obama's support among hardworking Americans, white Americans, is weakening.
Clinton had said a few years ago, this guy would have been getting us coffee.
I am not a racist. This whole thing is the biggest fairy tale.
Geraldine Ferraro's comment to a newspaper that, quote, if Obama was a white man, he would not be in this position.
The Clinton campaign doesn't want to change the tone. They're defending this, and this, therefore, is their strategy.
This was, you don't see the video in this, but the ad highlights all of that was Tim Russert, Meet the Press, at the beginning, and Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC, and Chris Cuomo from CNN was there. And then they're all reacting to how outrageous the Hillary campaign in 2008 is and the things that it's alluding to. And one of those things is, hey, Martin Luther King didn't do that much. It's LBJ that gave a Civil Rights Act. Martin Luther King didn't do all that much. That was the Hillary Clinton campaign. And, of course, she has embraced the only member of the Ku Klux Klan to ever be in the Senate, a Democrat, Robert Byrd, and she said he was the conscience of the Senate. And it makes what she did yesterday pale all the more because it's typical. Democrats run out. It's an Alinsky tactic, actually. You accuse your opponents of being who you are and doing the outrageous things that you do. I'll tell you another reason for this speech that she gave yesterday. Trump's outreach to the African-American community. Do not be misled. Do not be fooled. The Democrats are worried that it could be effective. They're very worried about it. They know, of course, don't act like it. They act like, oh, this is outrageous. Trump's out insulting them. Wrong. I'm going to put this all in perspective for you as the program unfolds. Yes, Trump, whatever he was warning the Democrats, whatever he's warning African Americans, he wasn't criticizing them. He was criticizing the Democrat Party. He was telling them it's the Democrat Party that has made their bed for them, and it's time that changed. Hi, folks. Great to have you with us. It's El Rushmo, the all-knowing, all-caring, all-sensing, all-feeling, all-everything Maharishi. And the 3 hours of the day when life seems to make sense.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
That's right, Open Line Friday. A gift from me to the callers. No limits, no restrictions. Well, not very many. Can say whatever they want. Ask whatever they want. Doesn't have to be restricted to things I care about on Friday. It can be anything. Telephone number is 800-282-2882. The email address, lrushmo@eibnet.com. Now, look, I can be wrong about this. I'm just telling you what I've observed. Hillary Clinton goes out and delivers this devastating speech yesterday, which a lot of people thought it was devastating. A lot of people thought, well, that's it. That's the final nail in the Trump coffin. That's it. I had more people down in the dumps over this thing when it was over, sending me emails. Oh, my God, Rush, how are we going to do this? It's horrible. And, folks, look, you know what I'm seeing mostly on TV today? I'm talking about the cable networks. I'm not seeing clips of Hillary's speech. Now, maybe they did it earlier today. You know what I see them talk? Everybody's talking about the Trump immigration flip-flop. There is far more attention being paid to that. CNN, I don't know what PMSNBC is doing. I don't watch them anymore, but Fox isn't talking about the Hillary speech. I mean, there's some perfunctory reporting on it, but not like there used to be. I mean, a speech like that 10, 15 years ago, that, believe me, would have been the only thing discussed on the Sunday shows coming up. That speech would have had a lifespan of 4 days, 5 days, what have you. And it seems or feels different to me. I know that Hillary's buddies and supporters in the drive-bys, they ate it up. They loved it. But when I see more attention being paid to Trump's position and his flip-flops or supposed flip-flops on immigration, I get a little curious about it. Now, it's true to say that the Democrats do this every presidential election year. I mean, let's not forget what they did to Mitt Romney. In fact, let's review for a minute. Here we have Hillary Clinton, a 4-year de facto felon, with this private email server, and who knows what she has been selling to all of their donors to the State Department via the Clinton Foundation. She's been selling access to the State Department. She's no question been selling access in advance of her becoming president. And we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of access. We're talking 30,000 emails that we now learn were not just deleted. They were hit with an app called BleachBit. Do you know what BleachBit is? You ever heard of BleachBit? Well, you know how when you delete something off of a computer hard drive, it doesn't really delete it. It just destroys the directory to it so it can't be accessed. But the data, like let's just talk 30,000 emails. She deletes 30,000 emails, okay? They're still on the server. But the directory, computer lingo for the pathway to them, is what's destroyed. And when the directory is destroyed, then they can be overwritten when that space is needed. So if she has, just to make up some numbers, if those 30,000 emails are on a 1 gigabyte hard drive, those emails wouldn't be destroyed until she starts saving other data that needs the space where those emails are. If you really want to delete the data, you have to get a program like BleachBit, which scrubs the hard drive and gets rid of some of, but not all of, just enough of the data to make whatever you can salvage seem like hieroglyphics. Well, they use BleachBit. Now, why would you go to that? I mean, this was not just deleting. This was not just saying, those are yoga and wedding-related emails, and that's not relevant to what you want. I've gone through all 60,000, and there's about 30,000 that'll be useful to you. If the other emails that she didn't submit were just yoga and wedding planning stuff and wedding reception stuff, then it wouldn't be any big deal if someday people stumbled across it. But apparently it would, because they use BleachBit and who knows what other techniques to really scrub that server. Now, you've heard that there are another 14,900 and maybe 15,000 emails. How'd they get them? They got them from the people she sent them to. And we have learned that in those 15,000 emails, that's part of the 30,000 she claimed that were not relevant and that she destroyed, didn't turn over. Well, it turns out that half of them do indeed have relevant data to what the FBI and other investigators wanted. So don't tell me that there isn't quasi-felon behavior going on here. There most definitely is, and not for the first time with this woman or her husband. So we have that. We have a woman who has smeared women victimized by sexual abuse from her husband. Her husband is a known sexual predator. And when the women who were abused by this guy popped up, Hillary Clinton was leading the charge to destroy them. You notice that Hillary Clinton hasn't led the charge to destroy any of the women coming forth and saying that anybody else has been sexually harassed. But the women who come forward to say her husband did, Hillary Clinton targeted them and led what was called a Bimbo Eruptions Unit to destroy them, their reputations and their integrity and their stories. This is a woman who laughed, acknowledging that she helped a child rapist be acquitted. She was his lawyer. And when he was acquitted, she laughed. She has embraced a glorified former Grand Wizard Kleagle of the Ku Klux Klan, Democrat Senate Majority Leader Robert Byrd, called him the conscience of the Senate. She has placed America's national security at risk and in the hands of hackers. She herself has linked and tried to link Donald Trump with Hitler, who, by the way, was a leftist. And this is the woman clean and pure as the wind river. This is the woman who gave birth to the birther story in the 2008 campaign. This is the woman who gave birth to the idea that Barack Obama was a Muslim. It was the Hillary campaign who got that whole thing started. So Trump comes out, starts making these appeals to African Americans on the basis that the Democrat Party has let them down, that the Democrat Party doesn't care about them, that the Democrat Party is just using them. And so Hillary has to get in gear and immediately bring out the whole deck of race cards to try to destroy Trump. Donald Trump has been in public life for 30 years. People have worked for Trump. People have done this with Trump, all kinds of. He's been on TV. He's hosted TV shows. He's worked with top-level executives. He was given his own reality show. At no time in those 30 years did anybody ever say Donald Trump was a racist. And then all of a sudden, when he seeks the presidency opposite a Democrat, guess what? Like every other Republican before him, he becomes a racist. Like Mitt Romney in 2012 became a murderer. Mitt Romney, maybe the most moral and decent man who's ever run for president, ended up being a murderer. Somebody who didn't care about animals and a tax cheat. This is what the Democrats do. It's the primary card that they play, and she played it big time on Trump yesterday. She said Trump has stood up in front of largely white audiences and described black communities in insulting and ignorant terms. Poverty, rejection, horrible education, no housing, no homes, no ownership, crime at levels nobody has seen. Right now, you walk down the street, you'll get shot. Those are his words. She said, well, yeah. But he wasn't blaming African Americans. He was defending them. He was blaming the Democrat Party for the circumstances in which African Americans and other minorities in this country now live. Trump is trying to tell them, you are voting for people who don't really care about you. You're voting for people who only care about you for your votes. They don't care about you and your lives, and the evidence is your lives. Well, that's that kind of outreach to African Americans. That's not going to be tolerated in the Democrat Party. So out Hillary went with her speech, and guess where she is now? She's out making an appeal to Asian Americans on the same pretext. She needs their votes. She's out pandering as the Democrats do. She said, let's not forget Trump first gained political prominence leading the charge for the so-called birthers. No, as established here, that was Hillary Clinton who played this whole birther card, who got that discussion going in the 2008 Democrat primary. Anyway, folks, I could be wrong. I don't and can't watch everything. But I've had two news networks on since I arrived here early this morning. And I'm telling you, I haven't seen hardly anything about Hillary's speech. I haven't seen very many roundtables. I haven't seen, there have been some, perfunctory. But I haven't seen roundtable after roundtable or after with people wringing their hands, oh, how horrible or how great Hillary's speech was, or is it, oh, my God, Trump is so bad. All I've seen, the majority of what I've seen, is these networks focusing on whether Trump's flip-flopping on his immigration proposals. I don't know. It just makes me wonder. I'm surprised the impact of Hillary's speech is muted as it is. And if it is, if I'm right about that, there has to be a reason for it. There has to be a reason why they're not pounding it and playing it up. And I think one of the reasons is that Trump really fired back. And he is continuing to fire back on this. Anyway, let me take a time out. I want to get the phones. I intended to get some phone calls because it's Friday. Always try to get more calls in on Friday than usual. And I failed to get any in the first hour. Let's take a break now. We'll come back and get started with you after this. 800-282-2882, open line Friday. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. And this is Renee in Aurora, Illinois. You're first. It's great to have you. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Thanks for taking my call. I've got laryngitis, so ignore the voice. I just want to make a quick comment.
Let me tell you, your voice sounds sexy.
Oh, I like that. That's better than the laryngitis sound. I was a Democrat for 34 years, and I am not.
Wait, you've been on hold?
Wait
a minute, you've been on hold for a year because it says you were a Democrat for 33 years when you called.
No, I was adding it up as we sat and waited. It's 34 years.
I just wanted to make sure you haven't been on hold for a year. Okay.
Yeah, the extra year does matter. Barack Obama took care of that. And while I'm no longer a Democrat, I do consider myself a practical feminist versus a rabid one. And I just want to say that never in my lifetime did I ever think I would see a female nominee, let alone a president. I figured that would be my daughter or my granddaughter. And
may I interrupt you? May I interrupt for a question?
Go ahead.
Seriously, now I'm not trying to be provocative. When I ask questions, I'm genuinely curious and trying to learn. Did it matter? I mean, did it matter that someday there'd be a female or a woman president? Was that a big deal to you?
Well, I think it mattered because if you look at where women started versus where we have come to, I think that would have been, and it is, it's a significant milestone in history.
Look, I'm not denying that. I just, in the real world, I think women are the ones that have all the power anyway. I think women run more.
Well,
yeah, I mean, but that's another discussion.
I don't even know that it's as much a matter that one would become one as that it was possible. That would probably be.
Okay, well, now that it's happened, you were anticipating it. You thought it would be a big deal. Now it's happened.
Yes.
So what?
And most of the decades of work that I did was for my daughters and my granddaughters, and yet I'm faced with a candidate that there's not one character quality that I can find in her that I would want my daughter or granddaughter to possess.
Well, then why did it matter that there ever be a woman president if it's character and other qualities that matter? I mean, here you've got the first woman, you've got the first something you longed for, something you thought would eventually happen, and now you've got it and you're disappointed by it. You're disappointed.
Well, I'm disappointed for the same reasons that I would be if these qualities were in a man. She's dishonest. She's corrupt. She has no moral decency that I can find. And yet, she is right now, she's a little higher in the polls than Donald Trump. Now, if you told me 10 years ago I would vote for Donald Trump, I would have figured you needed your head examined, but that's exactly what I'm going to do. Because I do not want to see this woman anywhere near the White House.
Interesting.
This tone that she's taken on the last few days.
Well, what did you not like about Trump 10 years ago?
Oh, mostly it would have been media hype. It wouldn't have been any real research or any, and I have to admit that because it's true. But I guess what I want to say to women out there, let's not help a woman that we wouldn't want as a daughter into the White House leading a country at a time that it's so very important.
Oh, now wait a minute. Now, hold it a second. That's a new perspective. You don't want you wouldn't want your daughter to be like Hillary Clinton.
No, there's nothing decent or moral that I can find in this woman that I would want any part of. And
all right, well, that's. I mean, it's pretty clear. You've been pretty. You've handled every pregunta that I threw at you, and you've done it with aplomb and your sexy voice. I'd have never known you have laryngitis. Just so you know. Here's Bob in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Bob, you're next. Great to have you. Open line Friday. Hi.
Hey, pleasure to talk to you, Rush.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
One, the polls. They can be a little bit disheartening. Last couple days there, Breitbart and a couple other websites, Trump was one ahead. Now, Good Morning America this morning, George said Hillary's got a 10-point lead. It's 51 to 41. How much stake do you take in the polls?
They're all over the place. You've got Reuters. This may have been what ABC was talking about. Reuters Ipsos out yesterday has Trump up 12, or Hillary up 12. But remember, that poll, the Reuters poll, is famous now for eliminating undecideds. They have simply stopped including people who are undecided. And the way they do it, after they do their interviews, even people who are undecided, they either throw them out and don't count them at all, or they assign them a candidate based on what they perceive the respondents' preferences to be based on the interviews, the way they answered questions. Then you've got this USC LA Times poll that shows Trump up about 0.8 of a point, and that's been back and forth. In Florida, Trump is up 2 in the Florida Atlantic University poll. Nationwide, the polling is that Trump is just getting blown out. And it's confusing many people. We'll address that when we get back. The saga continues now into our 29th year. Rush Limbaugh, talent on loan from God. So during my perusal of the email, the questions to Rush, is there any more about Hillary and what she said about Obama in 2008 besides the Muslim stuff? Yes, folks, there is. In fact, there's another piece here from the Huffing and Puffington Post. A black author. Guy was for Bernie Sanders. His name is James Rucker. Says here he's an activist, an entrepreneur, and co-founder of colorofchange.org and the Citizen Engagement Lab. And he had a piece going back to June of this year, June 28th, which was the tail end of the Democrat primaries, and the Bernie people were fit to be tied over the rigged nature of the campaign. So what this guy has done, he's gone back. He went back to the 2008 campaign, and he revived some of the things said by various people. And here's a couple excerpts from this story. The truth is that for the entire Democrat primary, not only did Hillary Clinton's campaign do nothing to push back against the racist fear-mongering about Obama, the Hillary campaign actually fed the atmosphere and helped it grow. It was part of their strategy from earlier in the campaign to push the racial aspect of Obama and the Muslim aspect, the birther aspect. For example, March 2007, Hillary Clinton's chief strategist Mark Penn wrote a campaign memo that proposed painting Obama as un-American. Quote, this is from the memo itself. Obama's roots to basic American values and culture are at best limited. I cannot imagine America electing a president during a time of war who is not, at his center, fundamentally American in his thinking and in his values. This is Mark Penn, chief strategist for Hillary, advising her campaign on the ways they were going to go about attacking Obama. And one of the things they were going to do, look, we're at a time of war. This guy, we're not sure that he really is pro-America. We don't know where he's from. They're pushing the meme that he's Muslim and that he's the birther aspects. It was the Hillary campaign that got all of this started. People just either didn't pay attention to it back then or have forgotten. But everything she's accused Trump of doing, she did. Her campaign led. And folks, I remember it. One of the reasons I did Operation Chaos to keep her campaign alive. But I remember some of the things that she was saying about Obama, and I made mention of them here because this was Democrat on Democrat kind of crime. She was saying things that supposedly Democrats don't even think about African Americans. She was characterizing Obama in ways that we're told Democrats never, ever do. So this is just one example. Hillary's strategist with a memo saying it might be effective to question whether Obama really has American roots in his character. I cannot imagine America electing a president during a time of war who is not at his center fundamentally American in his thinking and in his values. Every speech should contain the line, "You were born in the middle of America to the middle class in the middle of the last century. Let's explicitly own American in our programs, in the speeches and values, because Obama can't." That was not from Mitt Romney. That wasn't from McCain. That wasn't from anybody on the Republican side. That was Hillary's chief strategist. In December 2007, Billy Shaheen, I know you'll remember this because they forced this guy to quit. Billy Shaheen, the co-chair of Hillary's New Hampshire campaign, raised the issue of Obama's drug use as a young man. He was in a chum gang back in Hawaii. And Billy Shaheen raised the possibility Obama could be attacked as a drug dealer. His statements had the effect of injecting racist stereotypes into the campaign. The next day, Clinton privately apologized to Obama for Shaheen's comments and claimed she had nothing to do with them. Obama did not accept her apology because he believed that Clinton's campaign was circulating emails claiming he was a Muslim. According to Reggie Love, Obama's personal assistant and chief body man, quote, "The candidate, Obama, very respectfully told her the apology was kind, but largely meaningless given the emails it was rumored her camp had been sending out labeling him as a Muslim." I remember when Billy Shaheen made the comment, this guy is going to be a drug dealer in his past. He's in a chum gang. He's out there smoking weed every day in Hawaii. Who knows? Do we want this guy being And they forced Shaheen to resign. They did this giant mea culpa. I remember sitting here flabbergasted watching all this because we've been told my entire life, Democrats do not think this way about blacks. Democrats do not stereotype. Democrats do not accuse blacks of these kinds of things. Only evil Republicans do. And let's not forget, at the time, the majority of the media was with Obama, and Hillary and her husband. Oh, you have forgotten also, I'm sure, just how betrayed they felt. Remember, 2008 was her coronation. 2008 was the payoff for everything she had done to keep the Democrat Party in power, to keep her husband in power, to keep everybody viable. And then they just dropped her like a hot potato or whatever else you want to imagine being dropped, and they glommed onto Obama in the blink of an eye. And Hillary and Clinton felt betrayed, and they got bitter. And that's when all of this stuff started. Because even when a lot of Democrats and a lot of media left Hillary and went to Obama, the Clintons were still thinking it was going to be a cakewalk. The Clintons were still, there's no way this country's going to elect this black guy nobody's ever heard of. He's given one speech at our convention. Skinny black guy, there's no way. It ain't going to happen. The guy's a Muslim, there's no way. This is what the Clinton campaign's thinking. And we all know what really happened. He dwarfed her. He totally took her. If it hadn't been for Operation Chaos, run by me on this show, she would have been out of the race in March instead of June. So all this BS about Trump starting this birther stuff and Trump starting this racist attack on Obama. Mrs. Clinton, the Hillary campaign, 2008. Here's Jeff in Eugene, Oregon. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes, it's my pleasure. I've listened to you a long time. I'm a physician with 45 years of experience, an internist. And I'm struck by the fact that Hillary, I think, is one fall away from having a major medical problem. She has a medicine called Coumadin, which is a blood thinner, and it's standard. She's been on it, the best I can tell, since 2012.
Okay, wait, how do you know?
I've known about it for several years. I've read about it in 2012 I've gone back and checked. It's been reported several times. And not only that, but even if I didn't know, being experienced, I would expect her to be on that medicine.
Okay, now, Jeff, wait a minute. Now, don't take this personally, but you have to understand my position. I
do.
You can call here and say you're anything. I mean, and you can say you're an internist, you can say you're a doc, say you're an astronaut, and there's no way that we can confirm or deny it. So my skepticism, I have to have some, and doctors diagnosing public figures that don't treat them. You know, I've always kept that at arm's length. I wouldn't want it happening to me.
I understand.
So that's why I'm at. How do you know what medicine she's on, and how do you know her?
Your producer was hesitant as well. I can't prove over the phone that I'm a physician. I don't have a password or anything that can convince you, but it's the truth. And I have followed this. I have talked to the Republican National Committee about this. I have been on 3 other national radio shows discussing this. And I've known about it. I've been trying to get the message to Trump. I, in fact, drove one of his cars in the motorcade when he came to Eugene. I'm 73, and I'm driving at 60 miles an hour, 6 feet behind another black Chevy Tahoe. I don't know why I was there, and I mean, I do know why, but I don't know why I agreed, because God knows what might have happened. Point is, I've been trying to get a message through. She's on this blood thinner, and you can double-check this. And she's had 2 clots in her legs, and she's had 1 in her head. It's standard procedure.
Okay, why, though? Why would she need blood thinners?
For life, so she doesn't get another clot, because she could get a clot in her brain, she could get a clot in her heart, she could get a clot any number of places. Another clot could be fatal. So she's on this medicine as best as I can tell. I'm telling you as honest as I can tell. One of the reasons we don't give that medicine is what we use the word contraindicated if the person has falls. So suppose we have a patient who's elderly, who falls a lot, who has a clot. We have other things that we try, but we're afraid to use this medicine because if they fall and they hit their head, if they fall in certain ways, they can have a catastrophic event. And so all I can do is plead with you to get this message out, to double-check it. I have been trying to say this over and over again. The other thing I said on one of the national radio shows, we need to have an honest evaluation of people running for president. I do physicals or did physicals on people going to the military.
You know, speaking of that, do you know that Bill Clinton still has never released his medical records? You know, everybody talks about candidate tax returns, and they release those, well, most. But medical records, that's another thing. And that arguably might be more important or relevant than somebody's tax return. We still don't have Slick Willies. And, of course, the speculation as to why has been abundant. Now, in Mrs. Clinton's case, they get very defensive when anybody starts talking about her health problems. So I have vague recollection reading about her taking blood thinners, but I thought, it was just this week I was reading something somewhere that I found credible, that she's got a thyroid problem and is taking some medicine for that. And it's an unconventional treatment. The conventional treatment they always treat for whatever her thyroid convention is not working, so they've had to combine 2 medications. It's why she gets fatigued. It's why she has to take 2 or 3 days off. But again, this is just speculation, too. She hasn't made this announcement or official, and won't. I don't think we're going to, if her husband's medical records haven't appeared, I don't think hers are going to anytime soon either. We will be back. I am going to postpone my answer on the poll question until the next hour, because I want to meld that in with other things. There's a bunch of things about this campaign that don't miss it. They don't feel right. I don't mean conspiratorially. I mean tough to nail down, tough to have certain analysis of. I don't think you can use much of anything in standard political analysis, standard presidential campaign analysis in this campaign. There are too many things that are not accounted for in the standard playbook analysis. Too many things that have already been blown sky high and blown to smithereens. Too many things that should have never happened that already have happened. Too many things impossible. There's no way this guy gets a nomination, but he did, running away with it. That shouldn't have happened. This guy shouldn't have survived his opening statement back in June, but he did and grew from this. There's so many things here that don't make any sense. And I don't know that the polls are capturing everything, and this is not wishful thinking. It is not. I'm not doing what I did back in 12 with Romney and thinking the polls were wrong. There's just a lot here that I think is going to take a lot more time to have meaningful data to understand and even analyze correctly and predict from it. So let's just wait till the next hour when I have more time, and I'll expand on that theory a little bit. I want to grab a couple of sound bites here in the remaining moments of this busy broadcast hour as an example of things I mentioned earlier. Here's Chuck Todd from the Today Show today talking about Hillary's speech on race. Now, his take is a little different than mine.
There's an amazing thing that happened yesterday. Hillary Clinton called the Republican nominee a racist, and all these Republicans, not a word. No Republicans outside the campaign said, "How dare you, Hillary Clinton, call the Republican nominee a racist?" The sound of silence among mainstream Republican elected officials yesterday is stunning.
Yes, exactly. It's stunning, but why is there silence, and why is it stunning? Look, I don't remember a whole lot of people defending Mitt Romney when Harry Reid starts ripping into this. Is one of the frustrating things for me was that I was one of the loudest defenders of Romney. There weren't any elected Republicans doing it. Harry Reid calls him a tax cheat. The Democrats are running ads claiming he doesn't care that the wife of an employee died. You know, the Bush team never responded to any criticism of them when they were in the White House. They all left it up to us here to do that. I don't remember Republicans coming to the defense of other Republicans much at all on anything. Right? And they didn't yesterday either. That's true. But I have a different theory. Chuck Todd's theory is that they didn't respond because they think it's true and they were devastated. And I don't think that's why they didn't respond. Here's Nicole Wallace. She is from the George W. Bush campaign. She's in the communications office. And she was Sarah Palin's handler in the 2008 campaign. She was on the Today Show today as well as Chuck Todd.
I have to say on the speech yesterday, when Hillary Clinton went to what all the Republicans have done in the past on race, she cited George W. Bush going to a mosque. She cited John McCain standing up to someone who called President Obama a Muslim. I wish a Republican had given that speech.
Well, now, wait just a second here. You know what she's talking about here when she says that McCain stood up to somebody called Obama a Muslim? That's not what happened. It was Bill Cunningham attending a rally for McCain, actually did the introduction of McCain, and it might have been in Cincinnati. It's where Cunningham lives and works. And all he did was announce Obama's middle name. Leading up to the introduction of McCain, he mentioned Barack Hussein Obama. And McCain came out, "I'm not going to put up with that. That's the kind of thing that my campaign is not going to be known for. And I've asked Mr. Cunningham to shut up and never, ever attend one of my rallies." And he didn't call him Muslim. He just used his middle name, as I recall. But here's Nicole Wallace. "Oh, I wish a Republican had given Hillary's speech." Why? Okay, so no Republicans come to Trump's defense, but that's not true. In the media, all kinds of so-called Republican conservatives have come to Trump's defense, such as here, and turning all of this around on Hillary. Anyway, more on this when we get back. Hey, if you happen to be running iOS 10 betas, public beta 7 was just released just now, developer beta 8, same. This is unusual. If you're running them, there's a new one. I am, and I'm excited. I'll be back here when that finishes upgrading. Now I'm confused. I thought Beta 7, iOS 10 Beta 7, was the patch for that exploit that jailbroke the phones that they patched in 9.3.5. It could be that's what iOS 10 Beta 8 is. It's small. Anyway, we'll get to the bottom of it here, folks, when we move on.
Live from the Southern Command in sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Yes, sirree, Bob. One big, exciting, busy broadcast hour remains here on the Rush Limbaugh program at 800-282-2882. Open Line Friday means whatever you want to talk about. Have at it. Could be a tech question. Could be the NFL. You know, we've got week 3 of the preseason coming up. This traditionally is the preseason game where the starters play the longest. Traditionally, the dress rehearsal for the regular season to start. Some people poo-poo that. That means fantasy football is right around the corner, going to be revved up. So there could be any number of things out there that you want to talk about. Okay, now, I have a theory, and this could be all wet, but there's some things here that are really, really hard to nail down about this campaign. I want to circle back to something that we led the program with today, a column at the Huffing and Puffington Post by a man like Robert Rosenblum, who, if I got the name wrong, it's the guy that ran Al Gore's network, Current TV, before it was sold to Al Jazeera. And he has a piece which I don't think is totally satire. I mean, there's some tongue-in-cheek in it, obviously. But his piece is designed to slap Democrats and leftists upside the head, say, this election's over. You people, you don't know it yet because you don't know how to judge the American electorate, but Trump's already won this thing, and it isn't even going to be close. And the polls are not catching it. And his theory is that Americans have been watching so much television, and so much of television is now reality shows. And by the way, he's right about this. I mean, you've got the Real Housewives of practically every city in America now. And half of the Real Housewives aren't even married. And then you've got Mama June and whatever the hell that is. And then you've got, the Bedford 8, the Stuyvesant 6. The Haney Project was a reality show. I was on one. They're everywhere. The Kardashians, and this guy's theory is Americans are watching screens 8 hours a day, TV 5 hours, their computers, smartphones, and tablets 3 hours. And they're watching this stuff. And the Duck Dynasty, which was for a couple of years, it was the most watched show on television. Duck Dynasty. And he makes the point, even the highbrow TV channels, the Learning Channel and the Discovery Channel, you used to actually be able to learn something on the Learning Channel. And you used to actually be able to discover stuff on the Discovery Channel. But now it's just cheap, low rent, low information voter type TV shows. Modern incarnations of the Hatfields versus the McCoys, the latest goings on in the Chop Shop. Whatever the hell is happening out there, who has the nicest cribs in the gang community? It's just all. And his point is that that's how America reacts to things now. And if anything in real life reminds them of a reality show, they glom onto it and love it. His point is the presidential campaign has become a reality show primarily because of Trump. Trump also, The Apprentice, You're Fired, all this stuff, a reality show. Trump is great TV. Trump is entertainment TV. And Hillary isn't. Hillary is crap TV. His words. Hillary is crap TV. She's not entertaining. She's not boring. She's old, and she's yesterday's. His theory revolves around, if his theory is right, then we have to be in the midst of an absolute decline in the American culture. Now, how many of you think that we are? A lot of people do. We're in the midst of a decline where even the presidential campaign is not immune from the lowest common denominator in American culture. Presidential campaign used to be way above it. Demand excellence, demand competence, demand policy expertise. You know it when you see it, even if you can't do it yourself. You want people better than you are as president. You want people much more qualified than you are. His theory is that that's not the case anymore, that whatever it is that attracts people to television is what's going to attract them to a candidate and a campaign. And as I say, I think he's half serious with this. He may even be more than half serious. You read it, Snerdley. What did you think? Did you think the guy, you think dead serious? You don't think there's any satire in it? Well, something's different. Something is, like a guy asked me about the polls. If you go by the polls, it's over. Hillary in a landslide. Now, I can point you to 3 national tracking polls. UPI is one. PPD is another, and a USC poll in the LA Times. And in all 3 of those polls, Trump is either up 1 point or 0.7 of a point. But Trump is up in all 3 of those dailies. If you go into the battleground states, in Florida, Trump is up 2 in the Florida Atlantic poll. In the Monmouth poll, which is said to be the Bible of polls now, the Monmouth University poll, whatever, said to be the gospel, Trump is losing in double digits, and Hillary has cracked 50% nationally in that poll. The polls are all over the place. Dana Perino, I mentioned this to you last week. Dana Perino, one day last week on the 5 on the Fox News channel, told the audience that she was really pained to have to tell them what she was going to tell them, and that is the polls are right. Do not make the mistake, she says, that she made in 2012, believing that Romney was actually up by 5 or 6 when the polls said the opposite. She said that they were misreading it in 2012. She said they had a wrong turnout sample. She did not at all think that Romney was going to lose. But he did, and the polls, with just a couple outliers being incorrect, were right. So she said last week on the 5, please, I can't lie to you. I can't sit here and give you hope when there isn't any. I can't tell you to ignore the polls. The polls are right, and it's not looking good, and Trump doesn't have much time to put it back together. So you have that. That would be a professional assessment. You know, she was in the Bush administration. Then you have the people saying, that can't possibly be right. Rush, look at those crowds out there. And I know Trump's crowds are large, enthusiastic, vibrant, vim, vigor. Hillary doesn't even do them. Hillary doesn't even do events anymore because she doesn't draw anybody. A big crowd for a Hillary event is 150 people. And people say, yeah, right, Rush, so how in the world can she be at 50%? There isn't any excitement for her. Well, because the polls are working the way they always have. And we don't know just how different this campaign is, if at all, from previous campaigns. We have to acknowledge it's somewhat different. How many years in the past, go back 2012, would Trump have gotten the nomination in 2012, do you think? Would Trump have gotten the nomination in 2008 if he tried? If Trump had tried to unseat George W. Bush in 2004, would he have succeeded? How many of you believed the day Trump announced that it was his last day of the campaign? He comes down the escalator. The Mexicans are rapists and murderers, and we're sending them back. I remember my reaction. I watched it, and I'm laughing myself silly here. I'm thinking, this is the funniest thing I have ever... And then the polls came out, and we all know. And then Trump kept saying things like that and kept growing. Nobody, there's not a single expert anywhere who predicted that other than L. Rushbo. After a couple of weeks, I saw what was happening. I understood it, and I started advising people. Nobody wanted to listen to me outside our tight-knit little group here. And to this day, same people still think the Trump implosion that was supposed to happen last fall is now happening. But something really weird, and I'm telling you, I can't put my finger on all this. That speech Hillary did yesterday, F. Chuck Todd comes out and says, yeah, I can't believe there's not a single Republican that came out to defend Trump. That's not unusual. Republicans don't defend other Republicans on charges of racism. It just doesn't happen. It's one of the frustrating things. What's amazing, tell me if I'm wrong, what's amazing is how many Republicans have piled on and agreed with her? Have you seen any? Did Paul Ryan find the nearest camera and echo what Hillary said? Did Mitch McConnell? Did Trey Gowdy? Did Michael McCall? Did Eric Cantor? Did anybody? Okay, well, where's that? Where all the Republicans are going, yeah, we've been telling you he's a racist pig. Isn't that more interesting? I know Eric Cantor tweeted something out. He's happy Trump's flip-flopping on whatever he's flip-flopping on. That's why his name is at the front of my mind. Why is Hillary's speech basically attacking and labeling Trump as a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, degenerate, pervert, whatever? Why is it dead news already? If Hillary, I don't even want to give anybody the idea. I'm just saying she could have made that speech about a lot of other people, and it would still be big news. It'd be the biggest news. There aren't a whole lot of Democrats piling on that either. I mean, there was, you see pockets of it, a little segment here, a little segment there, but it's not the dominant story. Hillary's allegations on Trump, racist. I think, try this for a theory. It's as good as anybody else's. If you're in the Trump camp, and I say this sincerely, if you're in the Trump camp and you know what's going on, you want Hillary drawn out. Because you know that Hillary doesn't do well when she's seen. She doesn't do well when she's speaking. She doesn't, the more Hillary's seen, the worse her numbers get. This has been documented to be true throughout this century. Hillary Clinton showing up, her numbers go down. When she disappears and isn't speaking and isn't seen, her numbers either level off or even go up. So if you're the Trump campaign, you want to draw her out. You want her out there. How do you do it? You make an appeal for the black vote. And what has Trump done? He's gone out and he's made, the last week, he's been just pounding the African-American population with how rotten they're being treated, how taken advantage of they are, taken for granted they are. And what did it do? It drew Hillary out. So she came out, she makes this speech, dumping all over Trump as a racist, sexist, bigot, homophobe, pervert, freak, whatever she said. We'll see what happens to her numbers after all this. I'm telling you, this is... No, I'm not grasping on anything for hope. I'm seriously sitting here analyzing this and trying to make the best and most sense of it I can. And there are just a lot of things that are generating reactions that surprise me. And there are other things I expect to be happening which aren't reactions that also surprise me. What is the big thing that everybody's talking about? Still, Trump's flip-flopping on immigration. That's a bigger topic today on cable news than whether or not Trump is a racist, sexist, bigot, whatever. In fact, the way CNN's covering this is Trump-Hillary trade barbs on racism. What? You mean the coverage isn't Hillary Clinton nails Donald Trump as the racist pig we all know he is? No. The coverage is Trump-Hillary exchange barbs on racist allegations. What? You mean the Republican is being given some sort of, if not credibility, you mean a Republican accusing Hillary of racism is actually getting covered? Who would have ever thought that? So, I think we're in the middle of a bunch of fluidity it's headed in directions that nobody yet knows. Because, look, folks, by the measure of traditional common sense, Trump should have been finished, I don't know how many months ago, right? And he's not. I don't think he's even close to being finished. The fact that they will not drop this immigration business instead of going after him as a racist, I mean, that used to be the way you disqualify any Republican. You establish that they're racist, and then you throw in that they hate women too, war on women, and it kills them. That's into them. And yet the Democrats and media, and even some conservative media, will not drop whatever they think Trump's saying, doing, wants to do on immigration and the so-called flip-flop. I'm going to illustrate this. We're going to take a break. I'll come back with some phone calls. In the next half hour, we'll get the sound bites to illustrate exactly what I'm talking about here. Okay, back to the phones as promised on Open Line Friday. Bruce in Denver. It's great to have you, sir. Hello.
Thank you, Rush. I think Mr. Trump could get ahead of this racism claim quickly and take it off the table for the entire campaign with the right set of ads and turn it to his advantage huge, as he would say.
What do you think? What kind of ads? What should the ads contain?
Run clips of every Democrat presidential candidate for the last 40 years saying the same thing about their opponent, including, if George Bush is elected, black churches will burn. And then finish that up with Mr. Trump saying, look, folks, the Democrats and Hillary Clinton are afraid because they know I do what I say and I will bring jobs back to the inner city.
Well, let me offer a bit of a disagreement. If you start rerunning Democrat ads, black church burning, you're still running Democrat ads. If I heard you right, if you think they ought to get every ad that every Democrat presidential candidate said, every allegation, and run it, and then close it by saying Donald Trump wants to be. In other words, you're going to leave it up to the audience to assume that all that's a bunch of BS. When really all you're doing is rerunning the ads, and guess who's going to see them? African Americans going to be reminded again of the allegation that blacks were dragged behind trucks when George Bush was governor of Texas. I understand the desire everybody has to nuke the lies. Everybody wants the Democrat lies to be blown to smithereens and to hang those lies around their necks, or better yet, bury those lies in the political coffins in which we're going to bury them. But I don't think you do it by rerunning them. Those things are emotionally based. They worked because they connected emotionally with people. And to run them again with the hope that people are going to finally realize what a bunch of lies they all were, it's a big risk. I think you're onto something with Trump running ads. He's going to have to start doing that. The question is about what? No, I did not mean to leave this group out. There is also a group of people that think Trump is finished, and that the polls tell us that, and that he's got no hope of coming back. So you've got all kinds of different possibilities out there. People like while I'm correcting myself, I just opined that in a normal political cycle, Trump would have been finished, hopelessly gone months ago. And I'm sure there were a lot of people. He is, Rush. That's what you're not admitting. He's down 10 points of polls, Rush, when you get out of denial. I know a lot of you think it's over, but a lot of people don't. It's a lot of people don't think the polls are capturing it, not for any reason other than it's unlike anything we've seen in a while. Even Dr. Krauthammer yesterday had to admit we have scraped the bottom of the barrel. We've gone as low as we can go in this campaign. In Hillary, Trump, everything being said is just beneath this country like we have never been beneath it. which is on a par with what the guy in the Huffing and Puffing Post says, which is the country has become a reality show. And he who wants to run and lead the country had better act like the country is a reality show and he's the star. Now on to the issue of Trump and immigration. Let me answer my own question. My own question is, why are the drive-bys not just hammering Trump as the racist bigot pig Hillary says he is? Why have they dropped that? Why are they focused so much on Trump and his apparent flip-flop on immigration? The answer is, what are the drive-bys trying? What's their objective? Their objective is to elect Hillary to defeat Trump. So by focusing on his immigration, his number one issue, in the drive-by community, in the drive-by world, the only reason Trump ever had a prayer was his position on immigration. And if they can destroy Trump on that, they think they can destroy his candidacy. And that's why they're focusing on it. As far as the drive-by is concerned, a Republican being accused of racism, that's so old, it's not exciting anymore. There's no future in that. Been there, done that. We've already told everybody Trump's a racist. We've already told everybody every Republican's a racist. They're bored by it. But with Trump flip-flopping in their minds on immigration, well, that's a golden opportunity to finally, once and for all, destroy his candidacy. So that's why they're focusing on it. And we start here with Kellyanne Conway defending Trump on immigration on ABC Good Morning America today. George Stephanopoulos says, look, we heard Trump last night say that he thinks Hillary is a bigot. Do you think she's a bigot?
I think our policies have left many people behind. And if we're going to look at the 70% of Americans who say that this country's headed in the wrong direction and they want change, then we can't possibly abide policies by really a political party and Hillary Clinton leading it.
But is Mr. Trump right to call her a bigot?
Well, is she right to call him a bigot? Have you seen what this man is called on a daily basis? He's called a bigot, a racist, a sexist. Why is this a one-way conversation? Why is her team and her apologists almost everywhere allowed to just hurl personal insults and get away with not having a press conference in 265 days?
Stephanopoulos then says, well, if they stay, we're back to immigration here. If they stay, will there be a path to legalization? Or do they have to leave the country?
He has said no path to legalization, no path to citizenship, and no amnesty. You can return home, and then if you'd like to go stand in line, like everybody else is, the thing that we learned in kindergarten, stand in line, wait your turn, go through the normal courses, then that would be evaluated on a case-by-case basis.
So, and Trump, by the way, is saying what you'll hear him on Anderson Cooper last night. They got to go back. They got to go back. We're going to find the drug dealers, going to find the rapists, the purse snatchers, and the muggers. We know who they are. We know where they are. We're going to send them back. They got to come back. The good people, we're going to get the bad ones. We're going to find the bad ones. We're going to send them packing. And if they want to come back, they got to go through channels. So Trump's essentially saying, well, yeah, we're going to deport a bunch, and then if they want to come back, they can come back. And I know what the reaction to this is going to be. Well, why go through the motion of sending them out? I mean, how much money is that going to cost? Send them out, bring them back, got to find them. Why not just legalize them? No, they got to go. They got to go. I told everybody they got to go. They got to go. They got to go. They got to come back. They got to stand in line, go to the same process, just like you did in kindergarten. That's Kellyanne Conway. Poor Ann Coulter. She writes her latest book, In Trump We Trust, E Pluribus Awesome. She was one of the early devotees of Trump, and immigration is why. And almost the day her book comes out is when Trump makes people think that he's flip-flopping on it. So she had a series of tweets expressing her frustration, and she started joking that if Trump's really changing, this may be a short book tour. And the leftists, I'm telling you, they don't understand conservative or Republican. They don't understand real humor. It escapes them. They actually thought she was promising to do a short book tour. So they've been asking her, are you really going to shorten your book tour? Are you really, if Trump changes his mind? And she's, do you guys not get jokes? Do you not understand jokes? And I'm telling you, they don't. But still, the timing of Trump's flip-flop, apparent flip-flop, with the arrival of her book, that had to be, oh my gosh, I can't. So she's doing the rounds, and she was on Hannity last night. And we have 2 bites. Here's the first.
Donald Trump came along and didn't need the donors, so he wasn't being bossed around by campaign consultants, though it sounds as if some campaign consultant has slipped into his campaign, and I don't think he should have been hiring, Rubio's speechwriter for his interview with you, giving all these ridiculous talking points for amnesty. And to speak to that, for one thing, the mainstream media, I've criticized Trump before. I'm not some, Clinton cultist or a Cruz cultist. He's my guy, but I give him constructive criticism. And every time I do this, the media makes this huge big deal of, Coulter tiring of Donald Trump. It was a joke when I said this was going to be the shortest book tour ever. It's called a joke.
It's a joke, yeah. She did say it, but they hope it's true. And so are you really going to shorten your book tour if Trump sells you out and so forth? But she is clearly frustrated. She's of the opinion, let Trump be Trump. You don't need speechwriters, don't need consultants. She did say that the day they hire their first consultant is the beginning of the end of the campaign. Here's the next bite.
These are all the Marco Rubio cliches used to push the Gang of 8 bill, and I think it's stupid because all Trump is doing is demoralizing his base. The people who hate him still hate him, but now they can call him a flip-flopper. Way to go, whoever told Trump to say that. He isn't a politician. He does get some things wrong. The one thing that has been totally consistent in his life that I describe in this book is that he has always been super patriotic, has always put Americans first, has always cared about working-class Americans. And if you are putting Americans first, you are not going to want to keep even the most law-abiding illegal alien.
Okay, so who is it, if anybody, advising Trump to soften or change his approach on this? Well, Ann Coulter herself last night on ABC put forth the idea that it's Roger Ailes' fault. That Ailes is advising Trump and that Ailes is a Bushy, therefore a moderate, and that Ailes is advising Trump as he would advise a Bush. Hey, you got to soften a little bit. That has turned out now to be refuted by others in the campaign, such as Rudy Giuliani, who is now claiming that it's Chris Christie who is causing Trump to change his language on this. As Katrina Pearson said the other day, he's not changed his attitude, he's just changing the words. Yeah, he still thinks the same thing, and he's going to do the same. He's using different words to describe it. So, and of course, the CNN people start snickering and laughing, thinking, man, what an idiot, changing the words. So Giuliani says that it's Chris Christie, and that it's Chris Christie who is going to continue to work on Trump to change, modify, moderate his position on immigration and deportation and amnesty. We will hear from Trump himself when we get back. Anderson Cooper 360 last night on CNN. Trump doubling down on the wall. Question from Cooper. One of the big things you've talked about, primaries, so forth. We have interviews about this. You talked about the debates, 11 million undocumented immigrants. They have to go, you say. The good ones can come back in. They can put a door in the wall. The good ones come back in, do it humanely. It seems now there's been some contradictory statements about all of this.
We're going to build a great wall. The wall is going to be paid for by Mexico. People are not going to be able to tunnel because we're going to have tunnel technology. We're going to have all sorts of things on this wall. There's going to be a real wall. Drugs will stop flowing into our nation and poisoning our youth and everybody else. We're going to have all sorts of E-Verify and everything you can think of in terms of immigration. People will not come into our country illegally. We're going to fix that.
Cooper then says, on Hannity last night, you used the word softening.
I've had people say it's a hardening, actually.
But 11 million who have not committed a crime, there's going to be a path to legalization. Is that right?
You know it's a process. You can't take 11 at one time and just say, boom, you're gone. We have to find where these people are. Most people don't even know where they are. Nobody even knows if it's 11.
So it's still possible.
It could be 30 and it could be 5. Nobody knows.
Right, but we're going to find them. We don't know where they are. It could be 5 million, it could be 30 million, it could be 11 million. I think it's more than 11, by the way. How did this number 11 even... You know, this number used to be 14 And I've always thought this number's closer to 20. I mean, we're talking about since 1986 here. You know, that's when we did Simpson-Mazzoli. That's the last time we granted amnesty, and they promised that it would end everything. And it's built from then. No matter what the number is, the experts say, well, they're living in the shadows. You'll never be able to find them. You can't find them. What are you talking about? Find them. You can't. Eisenhower did it. I mean, it's been done. I mean, if you really wanted to do it, you could do it. But Trump here is saying it's a process. You can't take all of them, however many it is, 11 million, 5 million, 30 million. You can't get rid of all of them at once. But we're going to do it. I like the tunnel technology. I like that. We're going to have tunnel technology. You know me, I'm a big tech guy. Tech is my hobby. How are we going to do tunnel technology? Well, we're going to have anti-tunnel technology that's going to be part of the wall. The wall will not allow tunnels. You're not going to be able to burrow under the tunnel, under the wall with a tunnel, which means the tunnel's got to be pretty deep. The foundation of the wall has to be deep. If you're going to have anti-tunnel tech, then you've got to make sure that somebody can't build a tunnel underneath the wall. That's what tunnel technology is. If anybody knows about tunnel technology, it'd be Trump. I mean, he's a construction ace, right? So if you're going to have tunnel technology, Cooper didn't ask him what it is. I think Cooper said, well, I don't know half of what he's saying, so I don't know what to ask him about. But the tunnel tech, I would have zeroed in. What is tunnel tech? I mean, how do you make sure that tunnels aren't going to work? The only thing I can think of is you got to build the foundation of the wall really, really, really deep if you don't want people come underneath it, because that's what a tunnel is, right? Tunnel's underneath something. How many people do you think? I'm just asking. Like the Lincoln Tunnel in New York, or the Battery Park Tunnel. How many people do you think the tunnel actually is in the water? I will bet you a lot of people think the tunnel is actually in the water rather than underneath the riverbed. So when you start talking tunnel tech, well, it opens it way, way up. This is the last bite we have with Trump and Anderson Cooper last night.
There is no path to legalization.
You talked about paying back taxes
people
on Hannity.
Leave the country. Well, when they come back in, if they come back in, then they can start paying taxes.
So they still have to leave the country.
But there is no path to legalization unless they leave the country and come back.
So that means of the 11 million who are here, even if they haven't committed a crime.
Well, you don't know. Again, you keep saying 11 million. You don't know what the number is. You know, millions of people.
Many, that's the estimate.
And using the existing laws of our country, millions of people are deported every year.
Right.
You know that, right?
Yeah, they are. Obama is deporting people. There's no question. It's just not very many, but there are deportations taking place. So the question that got this going was, well, if they haven't committed a crime, will there be a path to legalization? And Trump said, no, there is no path to legalization. You know what I think is being set up here? Remember when many times in the recent past, when people have come to me and said, you know, if you got behind this, you could make it happen. If you would sign on to it, you could make it happen. I said, yeah, if I sign on to it, I can wave bye-bye to my career. But I did have this proviso. I said, I will be glad to sign on to amnesty. I will sign it right now if you put a provision in that those granted amnesty cannot vote for 25 years. And let's see, or 10 years or 50, let's see how many Democrats support that. Let's see how many people I have who want my assistance, who would welcome it that way. You want amnesty? Fine. You want path to citizenship? Trump says there is no path to legalization other than obeying the law. if you want amnesty, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being headed in that direction. I'm not predicting it. But I've always thought that was a great way to just expose everybody on this and what their real purposes are. Back in a second. I haven't mentioned it, but remember that hurricane, that storm that's supposed to be a hurricane might hit Miami? Again, a non-entity. But they first had it hitting Fort Lauderdale, and then Miami, and now you can't find it. It's just some thunderstorms out there that might skirt by Havana, which is a shame because we need the rain. They want a hurricane so they can tout global warming. Have a great weekend, folks, and we will be right back here on Monday.